Hey boys and girls, this is Mrs. Alter.
And Mr. Hines.
Today we're going to be talking about classifying numbers. So go ahead and click pause the video, and copy down these three definitions. All right, Mr. Hines, we have the first definition of whole numbers, which is?
Whole numbers, the set of all positive numbers and zero.
Okay, so looking back to elementary school, those were our counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 0. 0 is included in our whole numbers.
Right, whole numbers, not too bad.
Okay, and then we have integers, which is?
The set of whole numbers and their opposites.
Okay, so if we have 1, what's the opposite of 1?
-1.
If the opposite of 2?
That would be -2.
Okay, so it's those positive whole numbers and their opposites.
Okay.
Okay, and then we have rational numbers.
Rational numbers are numbers that can be written in the form of a over b, where a and b are integers, and b cannot equal 0.
Okay, so again, it looks like a fraction. Okay, and then that fraction bar means division. We're going to talk about that later. Okay, so go ahead and open your foldable. Okay, open your foldable and copy down rational on the outer circle, integers on the middle circle, and whole numbers in the center circle. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start in the inner circle. That's the most specific. Okay, so with whole numbers, so we said that whole numbers were?
Our counting numbers. So like 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, on increasing.
All right. So always starting at 0 with those whole numbers, and ... this means that they're going to continue to increase.
Okay.
Okay. Now, whole numbers, because this circle is inside of integers, whole numbers are also integers, because if you look at your definition of integers, it is the
set of whole numbers and their opposites.
Okay, so I'm going to write these same numbers out here in integers. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay, and because they're inside of the rational number circle, they're also
integers
and
rational numbers.
Rational numbers.
Sorry. Yes.
What were you going to say?
No, go ahead. You're doing great.
Thank you, Mr. Hines, for that compliment. All right. So we have whole numbers. Okay, so whole numbers.
Fits in all three categories.
Right, it's all three categories. So if you're a whole number, you're also going to be
an integer
and
a rational number.
Rational number. All right. So now let's move to the next circle outside of whole numbers, which is
integers, which are whole numbers and their opposites.
Okay, so here are our whole numbers, which are integers.
Is there an opposite for 0?
No, 0 is neutral. Remember we talked about that?
That's right.
Okay, so the opposite of 1 would be?
-1.
-1. So I'm just going to kind of write those out here to the side.
I kind of think it's like the opposite side of the number line.
Exactly.
Or opposite side of 0.
Right, they're
the same
opposites.
distance from 0 in opposite directions.
Exactly.
Okay.
So 2 is 2 hops away from 0.
All right,
to the right.
Yeah, and -2 is in the 2 hops from 0 in the opposite direction.
There you go. All right, so we have -3,
-4,
-4, all of those opposites.
And keep going, ... right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so integers. Are all integers whole numbers, Mr. Hines?
Well, they're the whole numbers and their opposites.
Okay.
So all whole numbers.
Okay, so we put these negative integers not in the whole number, but only in the integers, okay?
Right.
So if they're out here in this integer circle, they are also...
Oh, they're rational.
Rational numbers.
Okay.
So these negative integers are also rational numbers.
So you're working your way out, not in.
Correct.
So what's out here can't be in here.
Correct.
Okay.
Because these negative numbers are not whole numbers.
Correct.
Those are only positive.
All right.
Okay. And then we have the outer circle, which we call rational numbers. Okay.
And those are the numbers that can be written like a fraction.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So, and that fraction is A over B. And A can be any number, and B can be any number but
0.
Right.
Okay.
Where B does not equal 0.
In a rational number, A and B both need to be integers. So they can be whole numbers or they could be the opposites. Am I right?
Okay. And then remember, b is not
And
equal
b
to 0.
cannot be 0. Okay.
Okay. So if I have 5 halves, or 5 over 2, is that a rational number?
It sure is.
Yes. And that is not an integer, and it's not a whole number. It's only a rational number, so you only see it in that outer circle.
Right.
Okay?
Okay. What about 15 and 20 hundredths? That sounds like a
Ooh.
rational number to me.
That sounds like $15.20 to me.
Yeah. So you have
Okay, so 15 and 20 hundredths, or 2/10, is also a rational number.
because that's not a whole number.
Right.
Because there's 20 hundredths hanging out there.
And
Okay.
it's not an integer.
It's certainly not an integer.
Okay, now go ahead and we're going to have you try some on your own. So I want you to copy these 4 rational numbers down, classify them. Well, they may not all be rational numbers, or they all are rational numbers.
Ah, that's a good question. Hmm.
That's a good discussion for back to class.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so negative 18 and 5/10, 15, negative 23, and negative 3 and 1/4. Go ahead and copy those down, click pause, and then place them in the most specific classification. Or if they fit in more than one classification, put them in both of those.
All right. So write them down inside your diagram.
All right, so check to see the ones that we have boxed here, how you did.
Okay. And the boxes, so negative 18 and a half is a rational number, and that's the most specific that it can be.
And that's the only one it can be.
It cannot be an integer. It cannot be a whole number.
So we boxed it.
Okay.
The next one is 15.
I see 15 in all 3.
Well, we
But-
know 15 is a
Whole number.
whole number, so it's in the inner circle. And in whole numbers,
Yeah, it's also an integer.
also an integer, and it's also a...
Rational number. So 15 is all 3, fits in all 3 categories, but most specifically in whole numbers.
Okay, very good. And negative 23,
Negative 23, it only fits in, well, most specifically in integers.
and if you're an integer, you're also
a
a...
rational number.
Okay. And then our last one,
Negative 3 and a quarter, and that fits in rational numbers.
it's only a rational number.
Can't be in any of those.
All right. Okay, over on the right side of your INB, go ahead and pause the video and copy this down. Okay, these are your practice problems. You're going to classify as a whole number, integer, or rational number by placing it in the correct category. Okay? So we're going to start with negative 3.
All right. We're going to do one for you, and then you're doing the rest.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll be nice and do one.
Yes, we'll do one. So negative 3. Negative 3, that's not a whole number,
It's not a whole number.
but it is its opposite.
Oh.
So that would be an integer.
So if it's opposite of a whole number, we're going to put it under integer. And if it's an integer, it's also
It is a rational number.
a
And it
rational
fits in
number.
those two.
But what's our most specific classification?
Integer.
Integer. So I'm going to go ahead and box the most specific classification, but it's an integer and a rational number. Okay? And your values are negative 3, negative 75, 3/4, 1 and 28 hundredths, 0 and 35 hundredths, negative 5 and 9/10, negative 1/2, and 6.
All right. We'll see you in class tomorrow.
All right, have a great day.